Hey everyone, this is Kevin. I'm hoping you're having a good weekend. I was on Twitter today and somebody retweeted a tweet by Rudkowski of WeAreChange. Basically says, fun fact, the United States has been at war for over 220 years, while the US has only existed for 241. It links to an article at zerohedge.com that essentially, it's, oh, hey, I hate these videos that just automatically play. How about you? Do you hate them? I hate them. And it's an article that's essentially a repost from Robert Fantina at ahtribune.com. You go to ahtribune.com, and it essentially is a series of comments that were presented at the Islamic Radio and Television Union Conference on July 3rd, 2017 in Mashhad, Iran. I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. Now, the article itself is essentially presenting the United States as this warmongering nation that has spent the entirety of its existence out killing people, blah, blah, blah. Okay. It's essentially a bunch of Islamic propaganda meant to criticize the United States. Now, all of that aside, my whole problem with Luke linking to this, or even Zero Hedge doing that, is that it provides zero context for anything. If you look at this timeline, and I'm going over to Wikipedia where they got this from. Are we going to claim that the Revolutionary War was a bad war? How about the First Barbary and the Second Barbary Pirate Wars? Were those bad wars? I can definitely agree that, say, the Apache Wars, not just. But the Civil War, wasn't that a just war in anybody's opinion? I think it was. And the First and Second Barbary Pirate Wars, if you understand the context of that, the Barbary pirates were Muslim pirateers who operated from the shores of North Africa. And any ship that would enter into the Mediterranean, as soon as they passed through the Straits of Gibraltar, they were susceptible to being raided by these pirates, and they would capture all the passengers and sell them into slavery or offer them back up to the European powers for a ransom. They attempted to do this to the United States once the United States was no longer flying under the flag of the British Empire, and the United States balked at that and said, no, we're not going to do that. We went to war with them, got our people back, and finally were able to settle the war and stop the Barbary pirates. It helped the Europeans. I don't see us getting much credit for that, but it's kind of ironic. The first international war the United States ever was engaged in was against Muslim terrorists, but we'll leave that aside. The whole problem is that it doesn't provide any context for any of these wars. It just summarily is painting the United States as this warmongering nation. But let's take a look at some of these other nations like China. List of battles and wars that China's engaged in. If we were to do the exact same thing and take every single war and the number of years that war transpired, then sum all those wars up, I'm quite certain it would exceed 220 years when we look at China. Pretty lengthy here, the number of battles that have gone on in China, different wars over the years. Quite a few. I don't even want to go through the whole list. And some of those are defensive wars, no doubt about it. Many of them are just, no doubt about it. Let's go to India. You've got quite a few themselves. In the interest of full disclosure, many of these wars were as a British colony, so they're not India in and of themselves. But just because we're not going to provide context, we're just going to do exactly what Luke has done. We're going to look at this and say, oh, well, hell, India is this big warmongering nation too. Let's go to this next one here. Germany. I shouldn't even have to make an argument there. The history of Germany is quite well known. Let's see here. How about Russia? Russia's been in a ton of wars over the years. Whether they're good or bad, hey, I don't know. It doesn't matter. They're a big warmongering nation too, apparently, by this standard. I even looked into Iran and Persia. They had quite a few wars, but I didn't really include them in this list. But Great Britain, they've had repeated wars and for centuries. Now, I don't really see anybody presenting timelines of Great Britain in their list of wars. My point is only this. I respect some of the things that Luke does. I don't respect his 9/11 conspiracy theories, and I've unsubbed him because of his 9/11 conspiracy theories. I felt just out of principle, I am not going to support that. And people who do promulgate 9/11 conspiracy theories they're out of their minds. The United States can't even keep our deepest, darkest secrets secret. How in the hell is our government going to carry out some kind of attack like this on itself and keep it secret? Are you kidding me? But then, I don't even want to get into that because this is not what this is about. I just think that him linking to this is specious and ridiculous. And he continues on with the speciousness. He presents this graph showing the United States military budget versus these other nations, but doesn't look at it as a GDP ratio. And there are some nations like Saudi Arabia, they spend far more of their GDP on the military than the United States. And then there's other countries like, say, the UK who doesn't. And so to present just static numbers like this without a context on how much of the GDP of that nation is being spent versus just, regular dollar amounts doesn't show you the complete picture. And that is what Luke is doing here. He's not showing you the complete picture. And for that reason alone, he is failing as a journalist. Luke, you need to take some tips from Tim Pool because he does this right. You don't. You present, you're almost like a National Enquirer reporter who sometimes presents the truth, but sometimes and oftentimes does present a lot of stuff out of context. And I want to respect you. You need to step up your game, man. All right, that's it. Bye-bye.